Hey everybody, welcome back to The History Freak, and today we're going to be talking about none other than Henry's fifth wife, Katherine Howard. Now, was she a victim, or was she a true Tudor minx? Ooh, that's quite hard to say. Well, let's take a closer look. Katherine is thought to have been born in 1523. She was born into the powerful Howard family, and she was actually related to Henry's second queen, Anne Boleyn, and his third queen, Jane Seymour. Although Katherine came from a great family, her father was not rich, and she certainly had no money of her own. Her mother died when Katherine was still a young child, and she was sent to live with her step-grandmother, Agnes Howard, the Duchess of Norfolk. Agnes had large properties and therefore took in many children from poor, aristocratic families. It seems Katherine became familiar with men at a very young age while living in the Duchess's home. She shared a bedroom with other girls in the house, and men were invited to the room. It seems Katherine and the other children who lived there were possibly neglected and unsupervised, as the Duchess didn't seem to have much interest in them. Therefore, Katherine likely went wild and was exposed to much at a very young age. It's hard to compare the life of a Tudor young girl to the life of a young girl today, but I do feel a bit sorry for Katherine and feel that she kind of lost her innocence a bit too soon. Two relationships with men from this time in her life would later come under huge scrutiny when she became queen. The first was Henry Manox, who was her music teacher. It's not known for sure how old Manox was, which makes it hard to get a clear picture of the situation. It's been suggested he was quite a bit older, and possibly preyed on the young girl, who was likely not older than 15. Katherine admitted there was a physical relationship, although how far it went, we're not sure. The second man was Francis Derham, and he was working as a secretary for the Duchess. Again, his age is not known for sure, but it's thought he was about 10 years older than Katherine at least. Due to her family's powerful position, she was brought to court to be a lady-in-waiting to Henry's fourth wife, Anne of Cleves. This would have been the first time that Henry would have noticed Katherine. At the Tudor court, everyone was looking to get as close as possible to the king, and with the marriage to Anne going so badly, the family of Katherine saw an opportunity to bring glory, influence, and high positions by encouraging the relationship between Katherine and Henry. And it worked, at least while things were good between them. It's highly likely that Henry and Katherine had a physical relationship even while he was still married to Anne. But Anne did eventually leave court, and then Henry, who was 49, married the teenage Katherine Howard. Henry was besotted with her and gave her many gifts. He was also hoping for more sons from her. Unfortunately, it seems Katherine wasn't very popular at court. It was felt she was not very smart, giggly, immature, and only interested in fashionable clothes and dancing. Well, considering her age, it's not surprising she was a bit immature. She was a teenager. But I believe she must have been smarter than some would say. She managed for a time to play the part of a wife and queen and convince Henry, a much older man, that she loved him. In marrying Henry, she also became stepmom to his 3 children. In fact, she was younger than his first daughter, Mary. It seems they weren't very close, although they were cordial to each other. It does seem she had a better relationship with Henry's younger children, Elizabeth and Edward. With Katherine being the queen, many hoped to benefit from her rise, including her former lover, Francis Derham, who foolishly asked Katherine for employment. Now, possibly out of fear for what he could say if not given a position, Katherine made him her secretary. However, at this time, Katherine had started a relationship with Thomas Culpeper, who was one of the king's gentlemen and another man older than her, possibly by about 10 years. They seem to have had a flirtation even while she was a lady to the former queen, which I guess was harmless enough. but they seem to become a lot closer after her marriage to Henry. It's thought in 1541 they started to meet privately, and they did this with the help of Catherine's chief lady-in-waiting, who would keep watch for them. They started to develop deep feelings, and incriminating letters were written to each other. Catherine's behaviour came into question when people from her past were placed into her household, and Francis Derham, talking foolishly and too openly about his relationship with Catherine, raised suspicion about her. It was suggested she had had a pre-marriage contract with Derham and sexual relations with him. An investigation began, and Catherine was arrested at Hampton Court. It's thought she made a desperate dash down what is now known as the Haunted Gallery, to reach Henry and presumably beg his forgiveness. Now, palace geography possibly suggests this story is untrue. However, it is said her ghost still haunts the corridor. Fun fact, well, at least fun if you're not scared of ghosts, Catherine isn't the only former wife of Henry that supposedly haunts Hampton Court. It's been said that his third wife, Jane Seymour, has been seen on a staircase close to where she gave birth to Edward. Catherine frantically denied she had had any marriage pre-contract. But under further investigation, the truth about her relationships with Derham, Manox, and now Culpeper started to emerge. The letters between the Queen and Culpeper were discovered, putting Catherine in a hopeless position. Catherine's family, who had benefited from her high position, abandoned her. It was ruled that it was treason for a queen not to reveal her sexual history to the king, and along with her adulterous relationship with Culpeper, she was sentenced to death and taken to the Tower. On the journey, it's thought she would have seen the heads of Culpeper and Derham, who had both been executed, and had their heads spiked and placed onto London Bridge. On the 13th of February 1542, the still teenage Catherine was executed on Tower Green, just like her cousin Anne Boleyn had been 6 years before. Catherine's execution had a lot less respect than Anne Boleyn's, with no French executioner specially brought in to do the job, and no velvets and cushions. It's been suggested, although there doesn't appear to be much hard evidence, that quicklime was poured into Catherine's grave, and this would have destroyed her body. Now, this may have been a revenge act from Henry, because it was believed at the time that when a person died, they needed their body on the Day of Judgment. Catherine's short life was certainly extraordinary. She made some very foolish decisions. But what on earth did a man who was almost 50 expect from a teenage wife? It's really actually a very sad story. So I would love to know your thoughts about Catherine. Do you think she was a victim? Do you think her life was always destined to end tragically? Do you think that with a bit more love and support from her family as well as the people around her, she could have actually gone on to live a very fulfilled life? Comment down below your questions and thoughts. Please always remember, keep it kind. And join us on the next video when we're going to talk about the last of Henry's queens, Catherine Parr.